homeschool group or a community group, let us know. We love having everybody here, but we especially love having classes here with us. And I think we are good. We are on YouTube. Okay, so I'm going to do my fun spiel. Oh, look, we have someone from England. Amazing. So I'm going to do my spiel first because it's the boring stuff that nobody really wants to listen to anyway. So I'm Veronica from Idea Exchange. I'm so happy that you are able to join us. The chat room, the Q&A is going to be open the whole time, so please do use it. If Toby asks you any questions, you can put them, or you can put your answers in the chat room, or if you have any questions for Toby, then you can put them as well in the chat or the Q&A. If you're watching on YouTube, you can put them in the chat room and I will bring them over, so your questions will also get answered as well. Without further ado, I am going to pass the virtual floor over to you, Toby.
Thanks, Veronica. Hello, everyone. My name's Toby, and I'm so excited to speak to you today. I was just telling Veronica, I don't usually get the opportunity to get out from behind my desk and do these things, which I absolutely love. So really excited to be here. I'm going to start off with a quick question in the chat. So pop in the chat if you want to pop in where you're coming from today. I see Matt is from England. As you can probably tell, I am too. I've been visiting Canada for 8 years now, so a long visit. But yeah, if you want to put in where you're from, I'd love to see kind of where everyone is today. I see Miss Dang's virtual grade 1-2 class here. Cleveland, nice, Alex and Andrew. Awesome. Cool. So as you're doing that, Manitoba, the other side, I'm actually in Calgary in Canada at the moment, so not too far away from you. All right. So first off, does anyone know what I'm going to be speaking about today at all? I'll give you some clues. I'm going to be speaking about an animal with whiskers. They have a long tail. They live together. Sharp teeth. Any guesses? Any guesses in the chat? They have the second largest brain of their family. What is Toby talking about? Whales. Wow, how'd you get it from those guesses? I was trying to get you to go down the cat. No, we're not speaking about cats today. We are going to be speaking about whales. As you can see, I'm from Oceanwise, so it'd be pretty strange for me to start talking about cats today. But yes, we're talking about whales, and a specific whale, or a species of whales in specifically, which are the killer whales. So I'm just going to pop up my presentation for you guys. And before I start, I just want to say, please put all your comments, questions in the chat, and I'm going to try and go through and answer them as we go through. And hopefully this can be a back and forth. It's a very interactive program. So yeah, have fun, and please feel free to shout out stuff in the chat and from wherever you are. So let me just share this one. Okay, you should see a black screen. Can you give me a thumb up? I can't see you, so a thumbs up won't really work, but yes, in the chat, yeah, great, fantastic. So welcome. Here we go. Welcome. So we're going to start a mission. I need your help for this. So I'm going to be hiring you, is probably the wrong word. I need your skills to find out what is happening to the southern resident killer whale population just off the coast of BC. So in recent years, they have become their population is declining, and I need your help to find out why. So this is your mission if you choose to accept it. To start off with, we're going to be examining different types of data through this. So I'm going to be chucking a load of stuff at you, and we're going to go through it together. Don't worry, it's not too scary and difficult maths or anything, and I probably wouldn't be able to help you too much with that, but we're going to be examining lots of data. We are going to be identifying the threats. And then later on, we're going to be developing action recommendations. So keep this in the back of your mind as we're going through this program. Think about these things and what we could do to maybe help these whales in the future. Okay, do you choose to accept? I'm going to guess yes, otherwise you wouldn't be here. So accepting. So this is Oceanwise. We just recently rebranded, so this is our snazzy new logo. It's pretty cool. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Oceanwise. Oceanwise, we are a conservation organization based out of BC, but we have a reach, an international reach, really. But you may know of us best through that sustainable seafood symbol that you might see on your cans of tuna or on a menu. Same company, we do lots of stuff. These are just a few of the different initiatives that Oceanwise focuses on. And you might notice that the most important one, in my opinion, and it's in the middle of our graphic here, is youth. So you guys, you are the most important aspect of Oceanwise. So everything we do, you're in the center of, and you can see there's a youth there raising their hand or shouting out, and that's exactly what I want you to be doing in this program. So there are three main threats that Oceanwise has identified, and that we're really passionate and driven to kind of reduce the impacts of these threats to the ocean. So the first one that you might see on the side is climate change. You would have heard about climate change and all of its effects on Earth. Overfishing, it's pretty self-explanatory. What happens when you take too much stuff out of the ocean, bad things happen. And then ocean pollution, so a lot of plastics. But today we're going to be focusing on one specific team or initiative, and that is feeding the whales. So we're going to be jumping into some of the work that our whale researchers do at Oceanwise. And as I said before, I need your help with this. Now, before we get started, I just want to acknowledge that I am lucky enough to live, work, and play on the traditional lands of Treaty 7. So that's the Blackfoot Confederation, the Métis, the Tsuut'ina Nation, and the Stoney Nakoda. So I would encourage you all to check out whose land you are currently on. And a good website is whoseland.ca, and it shows you all the different territories and traditional places. So with that said, let's jump into Wales. Oh, this should play. Here we go. I've just realized I may not have shared my sound. So let me know if you can't hear sound.
No, we can't.
You can't. Okay. Okay, let me just slight blip. Let me just come out of this. Sorry, everyone. One button, you missed one button.
Technology.
Yeah. Okay, let's stop this one. I'm going to share again. Give me 2 seconds. Okay, let's click that button, and now we should be ready to go. So now you should be hearing Lance, who was a researcher at Oceanwise, talking about killer whales. And when we're listening to this, I want you to think about those things that we spoke about before, identifying those threats and some background information about orcas or killer whales. So keep an eager ear, and I'm going to be asking you some questions afterwards.
Killer whales, of course, are in that category of social animals, and those kinds of animals are easier for us to relate to as humans too, because they do so many of the same things we do. They have friends. Mothers and calves stay together long beyond the period of absolute dependence. They share food. We share food. We have this population of interesting, charismatic animals off our doorstep, and they're suffering, and we, societally, I think, feel compelled to do something about it. The southern residents are an endangered population of killer whales that spend most of their time in southern BC and northern Washington. So they live right in an area of high human population. What makes them different is that the vast majority of their diet is Chinook salmon.
Okay, so let's go to next page here. So I need your help. Lance just said a few things about the population of southern resident killer whales off the coast of BC. I want you to think about some of those facts that he gave us, because I'm going to ask you some questions. But firstly, here's just an overall trend of the southern resident population. So there's killer whales living in that area over the last 35-ish years. So from 1985, you can see there was a decline, or there was a low point. This was actually due to the aquarium trade and people capturing those animals for those big aquariums and sea parks. From when that was banned, you saw a sharp increase all the way up to nearly 100 individuals. And since then, unfortunately, it has been going down lower and lower. So our job now is to find out why that is. So from what Lance told you, he said a few facts. I want you to tell me what we found out, first of all, about those southern resident killer whales. What did we find out about them? And please use the chat. And we're going to write these down in our little notebook that we'll be coming back to again. So what do we learn about those killer whales? I'll give you, I think I gave you the first one, where they're located. So they're located off the shore of in BC, so Vancouver Island, and around Washington, so that coast. Yeah, that's a good one. Their home is being threatened. So their home is being threatened. Lance told us that they're social animals. They like to have a chat with one another, swim together. They do kind of travel in pods. Yes, Matt, fish numbers, stocks are down. So yes, that could be a definite factor playing into the population, the overall populations of these animals. I'm going to put that down here, actually. Fish stocks decreased. Yeah, Alex, a new, climate change could be a factor in their decrease. So social animals, climate change, and then they like to eat smaller fish. They do. In particular, Lance said that they like to eat salmon there. They eat salmon. Okay, so yes, and there's lots of boats. So Alex and Andrew, yeah, that's exactly right. Lance said that there were lots of boats. It's a high populated area. So Vancouver, huge population. Just near the coast there, and lots of people like to go on boats. So yes, there are lots of boats and humans in the area. Fantastic. So those are a few different things that Lance told us, a little background to our investigation here. So from our investigation, from those things, let's think of a prediction or a hypothesis. So what do we think are those main threats? I know we had some things come through the chat: fish stocks decreasing, climate change. So those could definitely be, it could be, we could kind of put those into human impacts, affect the population of killer whale. Ooh, Joel, killer whales. There we go, Toby, you can type again. So I think we're happy with that one. Human impacts affect populations of killer whales. So let's find out, how are humans doing this? And let's find how we can gather our data. So before we begin our investigation, there are plenty of ways that we can gather information, more traditional ways. And I'd love to hear from the chat if you have some guesses as to how we can collect some of this data on these killer whales. I'll give you a couple of seconds. So it doesn't have to be just scientific, but what tools could we use, equipment, to view these killer whales and see what's happening? Tracking or tagging, fantastic. Yeah, some of those scientific methods. We can get on a boat and track these killer whales, see where they're going, see where they're not going by tagging them. Yeah, that's a great way. Okay, let's look into a few other ways. So another way is by collecting indigenous knowledge. There were people that were on this land in this region viewing killer whales way before Western scientists came. So let's see what stories and information these people can share. So let's head up to Squamish, the Squamish people up here, and click on this orca. So elders recall that killer whales used to go up the west side of the Howe Sound. So that's the west side, just around here, of the Howe Sound, to calve, so to have offspring, to have babies, and to rub on the rocks. Until recently, there was a near absence, they stopped doing this, of killer whales in that area since Western colonization. So you can actually see on the map, You can see a lot of the forested area in Squamish, but down in Vancouver, Surrey, Burnaby, around there, actually all the way out, you can see a lot of human impacts there, cities basically. And that has a big effect on the ocean too. So that was one account from a Squamish elder there. We're going to head over to the Tsleil-Waututh to see what they said. They said killer whales and the Tsleil-Waututh people are inextricably linked through history, cultures, laws, obligations, and spiritual practice. They've got a long relationship with these animals. Oral history recounts two orcas escorting the remains of Chief Watsalk II to his reburial place at the cemetery. So they used to be in and around that area as well. And in the Musqueam, what did the Musqueam people have to say? The killer whales used to come up to the shores of the river to gather salmon. The creeks were always full of salmon. My grandfather said that there were so many salmon, the sound of them splashing would keep you awake at night. The runs are way smaller now. So that goes back to what Andrew and Alex were saying, that lack of food. So that could be a clue as to why there are less whales in the area now, as there's different amounts of salmon, or less salmon that inhabit that area, which is their main source of food. Okay, so let's head to our notebook, and we are going to type in some of those findings from the first people there. So, oops, there we go. Let's see. So from our consultation with the first people, we learned that salmon were in much higher numbers, words for that, but were much more abundant, as a scientific word, abundant in the area. Use the chat if you can think of any other things that we just spoke about, those first people and what their accounts were. They used to rub on rocks up in the Howe Sound. Up there. They traveled as a family of small packs, absolutely, yes. And there was that one account of them actually escorting I think it was a chief to their reburial. So higher numbers in area. Fantastic. Great. So from there, we've got some consultation with the local First Peoples. We're now going to head to some scientific ways that we can analyze these organisms. Yeah, they may have been dying off, or they may have been migrating. Yeah, if there aren't any food in the area, if there's no salmon, they might think, hey, let's get out of here. It's no good anymore. Let's go and find somewhere else to live, because obviously they need to eat a lot. They're huge animals. So here's a part for you at home or in your classroom. I want you to pick one of these. There are 4 boxes. I want you to pick one of the first 3 boxes there. So chest 1, 2, or 3. The 4th one's a special one. We'll get to it a little bit later. So what do you think? 1, 2, or 3 in the chat? Need some music to play here. Some Jeopardy music, maybe. Okay, 1, 2, or 3 from YouTube. We've got number 2. Let's see what number 2 is. Let's study their poo. So let's see, one way that we can study killer whales and see kind of what they're up to is by analyzing their poo or fecal matter. So let's see, there is a massive poo. As you can imagine, killer whales are very big organisms, so they leave behind a little bit of mess when they need to go to the bathroom. So that is a huge killer whale poo. So we actually have scientists that go out and collect killer whale poo. Whoa, imagine that being a job. How cool would that be? So you can see that here's one of our researchers on a boat with some poo in a container. Apparently it absolutely stinks of fish, which is probably natural to assume because they do eat fish. But here is some, yes, some whales make ambergris, which was traditionally used as, I think that's actually vomit from humpback or sperm whale that was used in perfume way back when. They used to really herald this, this substance called ambergris. They used to use it for everything, candles, all these different things. Why is it green? That's a really good question that I actually don't know the answer to. It's probably something to do with the enzymes in their gut. Could be some algae as well in there, but I suspect not. It's pretty fresh when it comes out. Maybe they're Irish killer whales. No, there's a joke, they're not. But no, they do have green poo. So let's find out what we can find out from their poo. Let's analyze it. So we've got 3 molecules here. And through that analysis, they basically get the poo, they stick it in a centrifuge, they whirl it around, they identify some of the molecules in the poo to see some of the hormones that are present in the whales, because you can tell a lot about hormones, what's going in the body, if they're stressed, if they're, whatever, lots of stuff going on. Basically, the body's way is a marker that we use in humans as well. If there's a hormone imbalance, then something might not be right. But let's check out some of these hormones. I'm going to head to hormone B to start off with. So let's analyze this. I'm going to stick it in our virtual machine. Beep, 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 beep. Okay, so this molecule is a metabolite of cortisol. And because orcas are mammals, a lot of these metabolites, hormones, steroids are the same that we actually have in our bodies as well. Cortisol is one of those. So cortisol, it says, is a steroid. And it says here it's from a stress response hormone. So this is released in the body when they are stressed, which isn't a good news for us. This sample contains higher than normal concentrations of cortisol or metabolites, indicating that the whale is likely stressed. Possible causes: boat noise, lack of food. Okay, so we know they're stressed. So think about things that stress you out. I think if you had a boat that was whizzing around your head or something really loud, constantly buzzing around you, you'd probably get a little stressed, and lack of food would definitely stress me out, especially around lunchtime. Okay, let's go to number A. Let's see what that's number. Letter A. So we're analyzing this sample, spinning it around, extracting the molecule. This is progesterone. So this is another steroid hormone. And sometimes when we think of steroids, we think of macho individuals that have increased levels of steroids, and we think of it as a drug, but it's a naturally occurring hormone in mammals, and we actually need it. So this sample contains high concentrations of progesterone metabolites, indicating the whale is likely pregnant. That's good news. So we've got a female orca here that is likely pregnant. Great. And so we forgot to clear. Let's analyze this last one, see what's up. Oh, that is a long word. I'm just going to say T3. So we've analyzed this, we've extracted the molecule T3. So this is a molecule that is lower than expected, indicating lower nutritional status, which means they're not eating enough, which kind of proves some of our predictions that maybe they don't have enough food. Some of those accounts from the indigenous people as well. So let's write down some of our findings in our handy dandy notebook for like Blue's Clues. So from our stool samples, what did we find? What did we find? So I'm going to start off by saying there was higher concentrations of stress hormones. Not a good one. Yeah, they're stressed out. That could be for a number of different reasons that hopefully we'll find out. They're stressed out, and they're not getting enough food. Yeah, not getting enough food. That would definitely stress me out. And finally, there was one glimmer of hope. There was one thing that was slightly good news. Yeah, it could be too loud from boats. Yeah, we said boat noise. That definitely is not good news. But one, maybe there is a pregnant killer whale. Cool. All right, so that's one way that we can analyze these incredible creatures, is through their poo. So let's pick box number 1, box number 3. Alexandru, straight on it. Thank you very much. We're going to head to box number 3, which is, looks like an upside down microphone. Let's see what that is.
Calves depend on their mothers for so long and so strongly Their ability to stay in contact is key, and they rely profoundly on their sense of sound. Sound is everything to them. Sound is to them what vision is to us. And they are being bombarded by very high levels of underwater noise. It's a little bit like being in fog.
This is deafening. Listen.
Essentially, we are looking at whether anthropogenic noise disrupts mother-calf communication. So do mothers lose the ability to hear their calves? When you have sounds be the glue of your society and you cannot hear each other because those sounds are masked by underwater noise, you have a problem.
All right, thanks, Valeria. So what Valeria just told us there,
Calves
she's going to tell us again, is that noise is really, or sound is really important for these animals. They're very social animals. Lance told us earlier, they need to talk to each other. They live in close families and friend groups, and they need to talk to each other. And that upside down microphone is actually something called a hydrophone. So a hydrophone is a specific or special piece of scientific equipment, and it works just like a microphone. It's waterproof, obviously, but you sling it off the side of your boat, like Valeria did there, and it captures all the frequencies and sounds that are present in the surrounding area, and it can actually capture sounds from kilometers away. We can hear whales from several kilometers away. So what Valeria was saying there is that she went, it's deafening. So these boats can be really, really loud, and that can disrupt some of the communication that these killer whales have. So let's have a look at let's analyze some of the recordings that this whales team has taken through something called a spectrogram. Now, what is a spectrogram, you might ask? So a spectrogram, I'm just going to bring up something. You can see all my lovely work there. This is a spectrogram. So as I talk, you're going to see it actually captures my voice, and it displays it on a graph. You can see frequency is up the side there, goes up to 5 kilohertz, and then the seconds are on the bottom of this graph. So it's a moving graph. So I'm just going to show you how it works, so the different frequencies. So I'm going to whistle in a second. So you can see there, my voice is actually a lot of different frequencies, but the whistle is 1 or 2 pitches. And this is exactly what the hydrophone uses to capture those orca sounds through that. Pretty cool. I'm going to clap a couple of times to see what that does. Pretty cool. You can see there very sharp sounds, and that was actually a lot of different pitches in one as well. So that is a spectrogram. So let's use the spectrogram to see what Valeria found and her team found out in the ocean. So here's recording 1. I want you to see what you think this is. So what do you think that is? Is several different frequencies there. It is actually, it's a call from an orca. That is one of their social calls. They've got 3 different types of noises they make. They can make clicks, which is usually what they use for echolocation. So they'll click, and then they'll, just like how bats kind of find their way around through echolocation, it's kind of a form of sonar. So they'll do a click, and they can judge how far their prey is, if there are any obstacles in the way. So they're constantly clicking, click, 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 click. That second one was a call. It's kind of like a whistle. Yeah, and they use it for communication. That was a communication one, Matt. Absolutely. And the third one is it's called pulsating calls. So rapid calls there if there's danger or something. But that's their social calls. That was a killer whale underwater. Let's see if we were right there. Results. Killer whale calls, likely southern resident. Pod L communicating. Great. Now let's see what happens if we throw a boat into the mix. Pretty noisy, hey? So that's anthropogenic, as you heard Valeria say there, which means human created, and that's a small boat. That's something like Valeria's on a Zodiac or a dinghy or something like that. That's a small one, and look at all the noise, that background noise, which is visually represented on that graph. Imagine trying to talk to your friend with that going on in your ears. It'd be really difficult and pretty stressful as well. Okay, and the third one, let's see what that is. So you can see we've layered the boat noise with the whale noise there. So we can see it's, I mean, we're very visually, we're visual creatures, and we take everything from our surroundings. We rely on our sight a lot. So we can actually see the noise there that is created from that boat. And you can barely actually see the little kind of wiggles of the orca speaking. So you can think that's going to be so hard to hear your friend or family member if they're trying to communicate to you and there's a boat, and that was just a small boat as well. Imagine shipping lanes full of those big, huge tankers with containers. It's going to get pretty noisy pretty quickly. All right, let's write down in our notes what we just found out through our spectrogram analysis. So from our hydrophone data, what did we find out? I'm going to give you the first one. Actually, feel free to use the chat. I'll wait for a couple of seconds for you to have a think about what did we just find out through that hydrophone data, through that noise analysis. Just give you a couple of seconds. Think about what did we just find out? Mums and their babies are having a hard time talking to each other. Yeah, exactly right. It can be really hard to communicate. Yeah, communicate with babies. And Valeria's talking about belugas there, but it's the same thing for our killer whales. Hard to communicate with anthropogenic, yeah, great, Matt, human-made noise. Boats in that case. Fantastic. All right, so we've got one more box to open. Let's head over to this chest here. Oh, that looks like a drone to me. Let's see what our whales team is up to. So as we said before, this is the area that the killer whales, the southern residents, inhabit. So it's really that coast of Vancouver Island down to Washington there. And this is, as Lance said, a really high traffic area for boats going into Victoria, into Vancouver, into the harbors of Seattle as well. So there's a lot of boat traffic. Now, one thing that Oceanwise has done is we've created an app. And it's a pretty fun app. I encourage you to go and download it. Sorry, was that a microphone? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, great. It's called the Whale Report app. And what this app does is you can actually report, if you're on the coast, you can report your whale sightings, and these sightings are then pinged live to boats in the area, so big boats, container ships, and they basically say like, whoa, 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 there's a pod of humpbacks in this case, straight ahead of you, just go slightly to the right and you'll miss them. So the Whale Report app is really handy to avoid those collisions, because you imagine if you get hit by one of those boats, it's going to really hurt. So the Whale Report app, we've had sightings. Let's see what sightings say. So 2 days ago, there were 15 whales heading east. So they're heading towards that inlet there. So let's see. Well, the next one, 2 days ago, 15 heading southeast. So heading in this direction. And then finally, outside of Victoria, 2 hours ago, there were 15 killer whales hunting and spy hopping. So spy hopping is when they breach, they come out of the water, they look around to see where they're at in relation to landmarks around them. So they're hunting and spy hopping there. Okay, that's great data. So before we can launch our boat, we go out there with our whales team, our research team, we need to apply for a research permit. And this is actually true. We have to apply for research permits to basically track the whales and also to fly a drone. So please don't just go out there and fly drones. It's illegal. It stresses the animals out, but we can do it for research purposes to find out what's going on. And today we have a junior scientist team permit that we can go exploring these killer whales. So let's take some footage.
The study that I've been working on with my colleagues is we're looking at how they get thin and fat and how that's in relation to salmon abundance. So are they surviving better when there's more salmon or not? We're taking pictures from above. We see the shape of the whales very clearly that way. And what we've learned in the last few years is that their width, which is an indication of how fat they are generally, can change a lot, even in the course of a few weeks. A lot of salmon around, they get fatter. Not much salmon, they get thinner. It's not rocket science. So a lot of people ask, I mean, if there's not enough salmon, for goodness sake, why don't they just turn around and eat something else? Eating unfamiliar food's risky. Some fish have spines that can injure the whale's intestinal systems or have parasites that can infect them. So the safest thing for a killer whale calf to do is to be conservative and learn its food preferences from its mom, and that's what they do.
Fantastic. So we learned a bit more from Lance there about killer whales, their diet, and why they eat just salmon, because it can be dangerous to eat unknown foods. So let's take some, just view this drone footage. This is real footage that our team gathered from the field of the ocean. Just absolutely stunning animals. You can see this one here is checking out the coastline, looking in those kelp forests. So this was taken with one of our drones. And from this, we can identify, we use drones to identify, as Lance said, the thickness of their bodies, see how healthy they are just by the amount of fat, but also who it is. So we can identify them through they're called saddle patches, or those markings on the back. They're all individual, like our fingerprints. And we can actually identify who's who, which is really important if you need to compare data sets over several years. We need to know who's getting fatter or thinner, or who's becoming pregnant, or who's moved on. So very important to know which whale you're looking at. Okay, so this is Eno. So Eno was photographed a couple of times in the last 2 years. So in September 2020, there's a photo of Eno and a little calf there. And in 2021, another photo. So initially, what do you at home or in your classroom, what do you see? This is the same individual. So just with your eye, you can see there is some distinct differences there. This is called photogrammetry, when you analyze photographs. Yeah, Alex, she seems thinner in 2021. I would agree. So we actually analyze that through a computer. We analyze the data and we measure all the different points of the body that would give us a good representation of how healthy or how fat or how thin this individual is. So you can see here with the lines on the grid there, it becomes apparent that some lines are a lot shorter in that September 2021, especially around the belly region and around the head. So you can see she is a lot thinner in 2021, but that's just from the eyesight. Let's input some of that data into a table. You can see 1.1 to 0.9 there. So these are a few different individuals, and you can see this decline over the last couple of years in their width. Now, sometimes that's natural. Sometimes that happens with the season. If they're pregnant, there can be natural reasons. But if all individuals in a pod are becoming thinner, that might indicate a different kind of threat there. So, oh, there's another whale poo. I'm not sure why it went back there. Let's head back to, oh, we've gone back. Let's head back to our notes. So from our photogrammetry, we learned that certain individuals in a pod are getting thinner. They've got less fat reserves. So from all of our findings here, we found that from the consultation with local First People that basically the killer whales were more abundant in the area in the past. From analyzing their poo or stool samples, we learned that boat noise is stressing them out. There may be a pregnant killer whale, which is great news. And if you've been following the news, there have been a couple of births. There was a couple last year, which is really great news. So the population they are still viable. And from our photogrammetry, we learned that certain individuals in a pod are getting thinner. Now, something that I didn't mention at the beginning is that these killer whales in this particular pod of killer whales, or these resident killer whales, are recognized as endangered. They are endangered species. So that is why we commit so much work into these, is because we don't want to lose them. They are endangered, and we don't want them to become extinct. So that's why we're doing all this great work to find out what's going on. So based on our findings, let's write something. We've found, so we find the right one. There we go. We have found, we recommend the following policy actions to reduce the endangered southern resident killer whales. So what could we do? What policies could we create to help this species of killer whales? What would you start off with? So we know the threats now. We know it's lack of food, boat noise in the area. So what do you think we could do to help these specific animals? Restrictions on fishing, absolutely. That is a great one. Ooh. Restrictions on fishing, yeah, and so introducing quotas and making people accountable for those, and not overfishing those regions where the southern residents inhabit. They need that salmon, and as Lance said, they don't want to eat anything else because they know salmon, first of all, is tasty, it's good for them, and new foods are dangerous. Why risk it? So they are very intelligent creatures, and that they just stick to what they know. Okay, Matt says regulate wastewater companies and investigate them. Yeah, we don't want pollution. So any pollution, could be wastewater, it could be plastic pollution, getting into that natural habitat. So regulate waste that flows into the ocean. Fantastic one there, and we can all do our part with that in reducing our plastic consumption. Use less boats. Yeah, we could use less boats, or have areas where boats can't go, exactly. So maybe areas or times that are restricted boat access. So restrict boat access in areas, and maybe times of year, if there's calving season, when they're a little bit more stressed and vulnerable, maybe we leave them alone. Introduce speed limits, fantastic, yeah. Introduce speed limits, yeah, the slower a boat goes, the less sound it makes. Fantastic, these are all great. Show orcas must be captive bred. Yeah, so this is a tricky one, Alexandru. So I guess you're talking about orcas in captivity, which is, it is basically an industry which is pretty much, it is frowned upon now. It used to be much more abundant in the 90s, the late 80s and early 90s. But thankfully, people are starting to realize that these are highly intelligent animals. We learned from Lance that they live in pods, so it's not really cool or nice to keep them individual, kind of tanked up. But yeah, that's one thing that we could do. Captive breeding programs, maybe. It's tricky though. Ensure tourists can't interfere with whales. Yeah, whale watching. So as we said, we had to get, so I'm going to put that down. That's a really good one. Tourists do not, I'm going to put come too close or interfere. So whale watching boats, things like that, they have to abide by certain rules and regulations. And when I said about that drone, we had to apply for drone permits to get that close. Great. So I'm going to leave it there for our thing, our policy that we've made, and it's something that we can all do. We can all write these policies. We can all voice our opinions to our local MPs, MLAs, and things. But the things that we can do is look for that Oceanwise symbol on your seafood. It means it's from a sustainable seafood source, which means that we're not taking away that salmon from the whales. Plastic consumption is another good one as well. But I want to open up our magic number 4, because you guys have earned it. It is the slightly off-brand Oceanwise logo. We're going to click and we're going to find out some of those policies that are actually happening. So Oceanwise has been introducing these policies or recommending policies to local and federal governments to take action, and they have. So let's hear one more time from Lance into what is going on.
Well, going forward, we'll continue measuring the condition of the whales and providing that information to fisheries managers. We can say, okay, in this particular month of this particular year, the whales are really thin. Can you shut fisheries down, or can you limit fishing during this period? And What's cool is the fisheries managers so far have been really receptive to this. They're interested in it. They want to do ecology-based fisheries management. So if we can say to them, hey, you're not getting many salmon and the whales are really starving, they can shut fisheries down tomorrow.
So fantastic. So things are being done. There are slow zones, as Matt, I think, said, optional slow zones. There's shutdown areas times of the year. There are lots of different things. The whale report app, like I mentioned before, having that as a mandatory thing on all vessels would be great, so people know exactly where they are in the area. So yeah, there are things that we can do, and these are some of these things that we actually came up with by ourselves through our investigation. Make requirements to limit noise, so slower speeds. There's a program called the ECHO program, which introduced vessel slowdowns in different areas. Require manufacturers to make data on underwater noise, so more research into this. Yeah, so things are moving along. We've just got to keep that kind of pressure on our beloved friends, or keep the pressure off our beloved friends, the killer whales. So thank you very much. You've done it. Thank you for helping me identify those threats and come up with some of those policies for those southern resident killer whales. Yeah. So thank you so much for going through that investigative journey with me. I hope you learned a little bit about killer whales, threats, and what we can do ourselves to try and relieve some of that pressure of this incredible animal. So yeah, thank you. And I would love to take any questions. If anyone's got any questions on YouTube or here in the Zoom, feel free to fire them out at me in the chat, and I'd love to answer them. So I said at the, we've got one from YouTube. How often does a killer whale have babies? That's a great question. So their gestation period, or the time that it's in the belly, is, I think is similar to humans, around 9 months. They don't have more than one in a year, or one of those periods. But it all depends on how stressed they are. So those hormones in their body, they're less likely to become pregnant if they're stressed out, and if there are stresses in the environment. It kind of depends. Sorry, I'm going to shut down a couple of these things. It's my show. Yeah, great question. We've got Matt. Oh no, how long do killer whales live? Good question again. They do live longer in the wild, obviously. So, well, actually, no, I think it's pretty similar. I think it's around 10 to 30 years in the wild, and then maybe slightly longer in captivity. But yeah, so around 30 years old. Which other species are in the area, says Matt. So killer whales, it's a funny one. They have kind of what are called subspecies, and at the moment they are all kind of lumped in as killer whales, but there's been some research recently to say that they could actually be seen as different species entirely. So there's transient, which means they migrate with their food. So they'll come into the area that basically they'll follow the food around the globe. And orcas are an incredibly adaptive species. They're found in pretty much every single ocean in the world, or every single location, apart from, I think, the Black Sea and some of those inland ones, but they're found in the Arctic, the Antarctic. They get around. So they have different diets as well, and different dialects. So where the transient ones are more likely to eat mammals, marine mammals and things, where the residents, the ones that stick around the coastline, is mainly that Chinook salmon. I got another one. Do killer whales mate for life? That's a good question. I don't actually know. I don't think so, but I could be wrong. But it's something that I'm going to use Dr. Google for. We can find out together. That's a great question. Mate for life. Yes, they do. And they actually stay in their matriarch. They're extremely social. They stay in their family pods. So yes, they do. That's awesome. How big is the biggest killer whale? Again, I don't know the answer to that one. So I know that I'm not going to guess actually, is the biggest. Biggest is Guinness Book of Records. killer whale. So 32 feet, 22,000 pounds. Whoa, okay, that is heavier than I would have guessed, but 32 feet, so I'm just over 6 foot, so around 5 of me end to end. That's they're bigger than you think. And quick fact for you is they're not actually whales. They're lying to all of us. They are a member of the dolphin family, the largest member of the dolphin family. Okay, can killer whales be found all over the world? They can in the ocean. So they are found, from the Arctic down to the Antarctic. They're found in some tropical waters as well. Those are those transient ones. They're found, they've got resident killer whales in Japan. So yes, they can be found all over the world, except there are a few regions around kind of the Balkans, the Black Sea, around there that they're not found. Great. So I think that's all the questions from YouTube. So if there are no other questions, I'd like to thank you very much for tuning in. I've had a blast talking about killer whales, and I hope you've learned a little bit more as well.
Thank you so much. The whale and the dolphin, I didn't know that they were considered whales. So that I'm going to remember that fact for the rest of my life, because I just think that's so cool. So thank you so much, Toby, for joining us and sharing so much wonderful knowledge, and also things that we can do to help the killer whales. Thank you to the audience, both here on Zoom and on YouTube, for being as fabulous as always. I have sent out an email with future programs. We are running another program with Oceanwise. It is Deep Sea. So do check out our online calendar and make sure you sign up for that one. And we have tons of fun educational programs coming up this spring. So do take a look at them. And bye for now, everybody. Enjoy the warmer weather if you are here in Ontario. It is very lovely out